When we finished recording session 4 of Homebuyer University, we realized that we skipped a big subject that a lot of potential buyers are interested in. And that is the whole idea of rent to own, lease option, owner financing, all that sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit about each of these items. So rent to own, it's also known as lease purchase, where you put a down payment down. You handle the house typically as if you already own it, but you don't own it yet. You're paying rent on it, and you have a pre-agreed upon price and terms with the current owner of the property, where he's going to sell it to you at that price at some later date when whatever terms of the contract are met. So the danger of a rent to own or lease purchase is that you don't own the house. You've put all of this money down. I'll tell you a quick story about a former client of mine. They had put down $20,000 on a lease purchase deal. So they were paying rent on that property. A portion of that rent was going towards their purchase price every month. So 5 years had passed, and they had been making all these payments. They had paid down what they owed significantly. And one day they get a knock on their door, and it's someone, a representative from a bank, who said, "Hey, this home has been foreclosed. The owner stopped making their monthly mortgage payments. We own it now. Are you a renter? We need you to make arrangements for you to leave this property." So they were out all of the money they had put into it because they trusted that that owner was doing what he was supposed to do without necessarily having any assurances that things were going the way they should. So anytime you do any of these types of deals, you want to make sure that you have someone in your corner who understands how it all works, so that they can put protections in place to make sure you don't get that knock on your door saying that you've lost all the money you've put into it. That's rent to own or a lease purchase. Another one is what's called a lease option. It's very similar to the rent to own. You're leasing the property, but you have an actual written option to buy the house at a set price or set conditions. And so once again, you have a ownership in the property and that you have this option, but you don't actually own the house at that point, and you're still having all the same issues as if you did rent to own. Then there's what's called owner financing. The two most popular kinds of owner financing are land contracts and contract for deed. There are also owner financing where they basically just give you a mortgage on the property. In that situation, you get a deed saying that you own the property, and you just have a mortgage, but it's with an individual instead of with a bank. But with a land contract or a contract for deed, what those are is that the owner of the property is selling you that property. They're maintaining a certain amount of ownership interest in the property, but you also gain an ownership interest in the property by the matter of that document gives you ownership. The reason that a seller would do a land contract or a contract for deed is that if they were selling it to you that way versus a regular mortgage, if you default on your payment, it is easier for them to do a land contract forfeiture proceeding in terms of time and money than it is to do a foreclosure where if they had given you a mortgage. In any of those situations, typically, if the market is a great seller's market, they're going to want a big down payment from the buyer. They're also going to have terms that give them a much better return than they would get on the market, because anyone who wants to sell their property in a seller's market is going to be able to sell it the traditional way fairly easily. From a buyer's perspective, if you can qualify for a mortgage and you can buy a property the normal traditional way, you're going to get a better deal than you would going this route, because the folks who are selling this route, they oftentimes have a property that's difficult to sell the normal way. They're trying to get a higher purchase price than what is fair market value, or they're looking for something with an interest rate where they can receive a return every month on the payments that buyer would make. If it's a hot seller's market, you're probably not going to get a great deal on owner financing or rent to own. But if it's a very hot buyer's market, there may be an opportunity there to get a good property and a good deal. But the key thing to always remember is you want to make sure you have someone who understands how these things work, looking out for you and looking out for your interests and helping you to put protections in place that protect you from you losing everything that you've invested into this property that you're buying. That is our session today about different types of homes that you might want to consider when you're buying a home. If you haven't noticed already on the other sessions, we have a quiz for you. If you go check out that quiz, you can see how well you retained what you learned in this session. Let's take a look at what's coming in session 5, which is about the different types of cash you'll need when buying a home. And we'll see you next time.